Well, hello everybody. This is Trevor.
And Angie.
And we want to talk to you about sugar. It's not that good for you, is it, Angie?
I've heard it isn't. Pretty much any health authority that you hear from or even reading in the popular media lately will tell you that you should reduce the amount of processed sugar that you eat.
Yes. I mean, all of us probably know this, but it is hard to kick the sugar habit. And in fact, what we want to tell you about in this video is how Angie has had this long battle with sugar, like an epic battle, we could call it. And she spent most of her life losing this battle, actually.
True.
What we really want to tell you about is how becoming fat adapted has helped her finally, after all these years, overcome her sugar habits. So let's get into this. Angie, first of all, how long have you been a sugaraholic?
Well, I feel like I should start by saying, hi, my name is Angie, and I am a sugaraholic because I have not had great success in this area. And it's kind of ironic because I was raised by kind of a health nut of a mother who really limited the sugar in our diets. You know, as kids, she would make birthday cakes out of honey.
Right.
And, you know, she tried really hard to keep us healthy and keep added sources of sugar out of our house. But somehow I still majorly would crave sugar. And so if I'd go to a friend's house, you know, I would just be like out of control eating sugar there. I remember one time I was at a friend's house and her mom made cakes and we got into the frosting. I mean, now it just makes me shudder in horror, but
right.
We were like eating frosting by the spoonful.
Oh.
It's just disgusting. And there, you know, like I said, there wasn't a lot of sugar around our house. And so I would have these sweet cravings. So sometimes I would go into the freezer and get a can of orange juice concentrate. And I would just take a spoon and eat spoonfuls of orange juice concentrate. Or if we had graham crackers in the house, I would just like take whole packs of graham crackers and like just go munch them down. So yeah, it was not an area of great strength for me. And I always knew that sugar was bad for me. But somehow I couldn't seem to resist. And this carried over into my adult life where obviously I had more choice about what I ate. And, you know, I would say for the most part I tried to eat pretty healthy, but then I would just have these sugar binges. You know, it would be quote unquote really good for, you know, maybe 5 or 6 days. And then I would go to the store and inevitably see something, one of my favorite treats on sale, you know, the Easter candy is on sale. And I would buy a couple things thinking, oh, I'll spread it out over the course of a couple of weeks. You know, I'll be moderate this time.
Yes.
And then I would find in the next 24 hours that all the candy would be gone, no matter how much I bought.
In 24 hours?
In 24 hours. It was like, it's like this obsession. Like if it's in the house, I am in it.
Like, so give us an example. Like, how much candy would you eat in 24 hours?
Well, you know, I've bought the family packs of York peppermint patties.
Right.
And
This is probably like 24 in a pack or something.
I would say, yeah, probably that. And I would eat all of those. Or let's say I bought... In a day. Or night. Or before I've bought like a large bag of M&Ms and eaten them all in 24 hours.
Like, we're talking about a large bag like you would buy to pour in a bowl when company comes over.
Right.
You'd eat all that yourself.
Yes, and I would feel horrible. I would beat myself up for it, and I would swear I was going to overcome my sugar addiction. And there have been times where I'd go off sugar for a certain amount of time, but like any addict, I would fall back into my old habits and consume an embarrassing amount of sugar, feel horrible about it, and this cycle kept repeating.
Now, why would you feel horrible? Because of guilt, or you'd feel horrible physically?
I would say both. I mean, sugar tends to make me depressed. I feel good while I'm eating it, and then when I'm done and my blood sugar levels are unstable, I feel really fatigued, maybe kind of shaky, kind of sick to my stomach, kind of moody, things like that. And then there was the guilt, because I knew that this was not a balanced and healthy way to live my life. I knew sugar wasn't good for me. I knew I shouldn't be losing control like this, but I couldn't seem to stop myself permanently.
So this is happening while you're an adult and you're a health-minded, taking the training from your mom. You're very conscious about eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. You were a vegetarian when I first met you. You always disdained fast food and processed food. You were a runner. So in many ways, you had all the things in place, but the sugar factor was...
It's my Achilles heel, basically.
Yeah. So had you tried to go on a sugar fast and see if you can like kind of grow beyond the cravings? Or have you read any books on it?
Yeah, I've read many books about sugar, and every time I'd read something about getting off sugar, reducing the amount of it in the diet, I'd be like, yes, this is what I need to do. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'd be really motivated, and like I said, I would make it for maybe up to a week, and then I would fall off the wagon, go through one of these sugar binges, feel horrible about myself, reaffirm in my mind that I needed to get off sugar, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, right now somebody might be thinking, okay, well, big deal. You're a runner, so it's like, yeah, you can eat a little more sugar than the next person, and it's not really gonna, turn into fat because you're burning that fat off when you run, right?
Well, typically when you run, your body wants to burn through glycogen stores. So if you have any kind of sugar circulating in your bloodstream or the glycogen that's stored in your muscles, your body is going to typically burn that off first when you run. Then, it burns through that. You get home from your run, you're starving, you have maybe some chocolate milk or some carbohydrates to refill those glycogen stores, but it leaves your blood sugar feeling very unstable, and it causes you to have cravings later on. And I think some people are more susceptible to blood sugar instability than others. I have diabetes that runs in my family, and so, I really knew that I needed to be careful with my blood sugar, and was carrying around more fat than I wanted to, even though, I ran a lot. So my body was very, very efficient at storing fat because of the insulin levels in my body would have to go up after I'd consumed something sugary, so it would bring my blood sugar levels down. And insulin is very good about storing any excess calories as fat if it doesn't need it right away. So constantly having these blood sugar fluctuations was causing increased fat storage and cravings, and it was just kind of a really bad cycle I was on.
So it was a cycle that you were on, but are not on anymore. So you have found what we really believe was the missing link for all those years in your nutrition and in your diet. And it's helped you finally stabilize and be able to live without these intense sugar cravings. What is that missing link?
Well, I've been following the fat-adapted eating plan for 8 months now, and eliminating grains from my diet was the missing link. Eating those even healthy, quote-unquote healthy grains was causing blood sugar instability. Then I would end up eating things that were not good in the long run. For example, I would often have whole wheat waffles with pure maple syrup for breakfast, and 2 hours later I would be starving.
Right.
I had this big breakfast, probably 500 or 600 calories, and then I would still be hungry, and kind of that cycle would repeat. I would try to make it till lunchtime, and then I would have maybe a sandwich with some whole grain bread and something like that. And then mid-afternoon, I would be starving again.
Right.
And so inevitably,
And what's a good thing to eat when you need to snack?
Yeah.
Sugar.
Sugar or carbs is, usually readily available. And it's easy to find, it's cheap, it's easy to digest. So, I would turn to more what I thought would be healthy carbs and sometimes not so healthy carbs. And that just repeated itself. And when I figured out that it was the grains that were causing these increased cravings, the light bulb really went on. And cutting out those grains has significantly reduced the sugar cravings. It's now to a level where, occasionally I'm going to crave something sweet, but it's manageable. It's not like I'm compelled to devour huge bags of candy. I can have, some blueberries or a piece of 86% dark chocolate, and that satisfies my sweet craving.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute, but first, can you explain just a little more, what is the cause-effect relationship between eating grains and having sugar cravings afterwards?
Well, grains are a carbohydrate, and they're broken down by the body fairly readily, and for many people, it will cause this blood sugar roller coaster. Can leave you just feeling unsatisfied because they break down fairly quickly in your body. And so you eat the carbohydrate, your blood sugar goes up, the insulin rushes in to lower your blood sugar, and so then your blood sugar goes down again, and your body starts craving something else because your blood sugar is low. And so it kind of creates this endless cycle. So
cutting out the grains has helped your blood sugar stabilize.
Exactly. And there's still many healthy sources of carbohydrates that I continue to eat. Things like starchy vegetables, there's squash, there's corn on the cob, There's sweet potatoes, fruit, vegetables all have carbohydrates in them. So it's not like, I'm on a zero carb diet or anything. There are still tons of great carbohydrates that I can eat that don't cause the blood sugar instability.
Now, you mentioned what you do now when you kind of get a sweet tooth. Like sometimes, I know for me, after I eat dinner, it just triggers in my mind, like, I need to have dessert. Like some people who are smokers, like they have that trigger, I need to have a cigarette, right? For me, it's like, now I need something sweet, just sort of finish things off. But instead of having like a bowl of ice cream, I have found since becoming fat adapted and cutting out grains that I could be satisfied with like a piece of fruit as dessert, or even a piece of 85% dark chocolate, which would have tasted like really bitter before. So in other words, like things taste a lot sweeter now. It's pretty amazing.
Your taste buds will change. Things like spaghetti squash. I mean, who knew that was sweet?
I know. I remember one time we were eating that for dinner, and I'm like, did you put sugar in this? Or stevia,
Right. And fruit, fruit is amazingly sweet. Strawberries, there's so many great flavors that I was missing out on because I had inundated my taste buds and train them to need something really sweet. And now going back, eating occasionally something that I would have devoured before, it just tastes sickeningly sweet to my senses. Chocolate that I would have really enjoyed before, now it's just too much. It just makes my teeth hurt. I'll get a headache.
Yeah.
And, it's not like I'm 100% off sugar or anything. Occasionally I will have, dessert or something that I would have eaten previously.
Like somebody's birthday or anniversary cake or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's going to be times when you're going to have something with sugar in it. But it's like I can't enjoy it like I used to.
That's a good thing.
It is. It doesn't taste right. And then the effects afterwards, it like puts me into a sugar coma. Literally, it just zaps my energy, gives me a headache. I feel like laying on the couch for 2 hours. I almost feel like there's, like I said, kind of a hangover effect to eating large amounts of sugar. And so I realized what it was doing to my body all along.
Okay, case in point, Angie and I used to enjoy, from time to time, getting ourselves a couple pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
A pint for each. It sounds like
Right, that's a couple.
After my M&M story, people are going to be thinking,
like, how many is she eating?
I'm eating Ben and Jerry.
I always felt like, a pint was almost like a little too much to eat, but not enough that you'd want to like put it back in the freezer. So you might as well just finish it. Right?
Yeah, that was kind of our tradition after running a marathon, was getting a pint of Ben & Jerry's and eating that.
And you're a chocolate lover, so I was always amazed that you were able to get like this double brownie fudge dark deep chocolate pint and just nail the whole thing and not even think twice about it. Where I would be toward the end of that, like feeling kind of sick. Your ability to handle your sugar was pretty remarkable.
Yes, it was, sadly.
But here's a little self-incriminating story. After the Myrtle Beach Marathon, which we ran in February, we decided, hey, we just ran a marathon. Let's celebrate.
We haven't had Ben & Jerry's for like 6 months.
Yeah. So you had your pint of whatever flavor they had, and what happened to you afterwards?
Well, the thing was, I ate maybe a third of it.
Uh-huh.
And I just couldn't go on. It was like, this is way too sweet. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And so I put it back in the freezer, which, to stop a third of the way through a pint of Ben & Jerry's is not me, And then I pretty much just went and laid down, and I was just like passed out in this fog for...
We call it a sugar coma.
Yeah, sugar coma for a couple hours. It was just like, I tell myself, okay, you need to get up now. And like my body was like, no, I refuse to get up. So yeah, I mean, now I can pass the freezer aisle in Walmart when I'm doing my grocery shopping and not even want Ben & Jerry's.
Because you remember how it made you feel.
Yeah, I just don't enjoy having that feeling anymore.
So it's really a benefit having a lower tolerance now for sugar.
Exactly.
It's helped you push back against even the thought of it or the cravings at that level.
Right. And it's like what is a treat is changed in my mind now.
Right.
And so I really consider that one benefit too.
So what would be a treat in your mind now?
Well, I like to make up like homemade whipped cream, and I just, take the heavy cream, whip it with my blender, and put maybe a couple drops of stevia in it. And then, some whipped cream, fresh whipped cream over fresh strawberries or frozen blueberries, something like that. That's just like, wow, a wonderful dessert.
Yes.
Or, a piece of 86% dark chocolate with a tablespoon of peanut butter on top of it or almond butter. I
Yeah.
mean, that's very savory, very satisfying.
All right, Angie, well, life is good, and I'm glad that you are finally winning this battle.
So am I.
And if anything we've said has resonated with you and you think that cutting out grains is something you need to do, then we encourage you to get the Fat Adapted Eating Plan. Since we launched this about a month ago, we've had a great response, and we want to just extend a special promotion that we're doing. If you buy the plan during this introductory period, you're going to get lifetime, unlimited access to all of the training plans that we sell here at Marathon Training Academy, which includes our beginner and our intermediate plans and also our targeted finishing time plans. We normally sell these on our website, but you'll have access to them for free. So you'll find a link right below this video to sign up for the Fat Adapted Eating Plan and get this promotional offer, and we will see you on the inside.